Hello and welcome to this second video in this short series about drawing shapes in P5, getting started with drawing shapes in P5. In the last video, we looked at how to draw a rectangle. We actually threw in a second bonus rectangle and looked at the workflow for running code. And in this video, we're going to check out the XY grid, like what exactly do those numbers mean, real briefly, and then a couple things to note when you're running, when you're drawing multiple rectangles, some things to keep in mind there. So let's pop right on over and start writing some code. Here's where we left off last time. And first thing to note is, check this out. Here's some numbers without spaces between them. Here's some numbers with spaces between them. You might start to realize, get a feel for like what matters and what doesn't matter. Inside your parentheses, so these arguments that you're sending to the function are separated by commas, but that's it. It's okay to put some spaces between them. In fact, sometimes you'll see some other fancy stuff there, but that's all right. Sometimes people will throw a semicolon on the end of a line. JavaScript is actually really forgiving about semicolons. You can actually just sometimes not do a semicolon, and JavaScript will run just fine as well. All right, so I want to mention this XY grid because if you'll notice, remember the first time around, I said that your 4 numbers for a rectangle would be the X and Y position, and then the width and the height of the rectangle. And we can see that here. This is at one location and my second rectangle is at a different location. Let's just spread this out a little bit here so that we can see how these line up on the second rectangle here. All right, so this 200 is the X position of the second rectangle here. And so notice this X acts just like an X on the X position on the X-axis on like a graph that you would draw in math class. So starting from the left side of the screen here, X increases as you go this way. In fact, I can see from my canvas, I created a canvas here. This gray square is my drawing canvas. It's 400 pixels across. So halfway, so I did this X at 200, that means I'm starting my rectangle halfway across. And that looks about right. The top left corner of this rectangle is where it's going to start drawing it. And that's about halfway between, in the middle of the canvas there. Now the Y coordinate acts a little bit differently. So in math class, you imagine you have like an XY coordinate grid, and X and Y, 0, 0 is in the middle, right? And Y increases as you go up. Well, in this case, Y increases as you go down. So 0, Y is at the top of the screen here, and you can see that if I set my rectangle to draw at 200, 0, oops, I got to comment this out, sorry about that. So notice this rectangle now is at the top of the screen because my Y is 0. If I make my Y 50, I can move the rectangle down a little bit, and Y 100 moves it down even further. So notice that as I increase Y, I move shapes down, down the screen here. So quick picture of this, because I'd like to just show you one more thing about this, or at least visualize it here. Come on, Smith, take a picture. Why isn't this working? Okay, here we go. I'm going to take a picture of the canvas here. And then like to look at this together with you just quickly. So here's my canvas, and I'm going to outline in red the 400 by 400 canvas that I told P5 to create for me. I think I'm going to outline it in red. Having some technical problems here. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, here we go. So back in business. So here is the canvas, my 400 by 400 canvas. So like I said, that was 400 pixels across and 400 pixels down. And the 0, 0 point on this canvas is right here in the upper left corner. So if I were to draw my rectangle with the XY coordinate 0, 0, it would start right here and draw it out like that. Now, and X, so I'm going to write 0, 0 right here. X increases as we go this way. So X being the first number, if I do 200, 0, that's right at the top there. And 400, 0 would be all the way over here on the right-hand side. Now, 0, 200 would be here because I'm increasing my Y value. Here's the second number is my Y value. I'm increasing the Y value as I go down. And 0, 400 would be down on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So my question for you is, here's the first question. Where is 200, 200? On this grid, where's the position 200, 200? I hope you're thinking right in the middle. That's where 200, 200 is. And then 400, 400? Where's that? That's all the way down here. So the X is the max value and Y is the max value. All right, I wanted to just go over the XY coordinate grid with you a little bit. I'm introducing it to you here. The best way for you to learn this, though, and to internalize it is to just move some rectangles around. Draw a couple rectangles and then move them around so you can see what happens with them. Let's go back to the code here and try drawing multiple rectangles. So I'm going to leave this I'm going to leave this XY with height commented up here so that we can remember that. And let's just draw a couple more rectangles now. Hey, what's a rectangle where both sides, the width and the height are the same? That's a square. So it's going to add a square now. And then I'm going to just try like increasing this some now. So move my X to 200. Think about which direction this is going to move in. Make a prediction. And now I move it, and you see it's over there. Now, notice this. I'm going to move this rectangle down a little bit. Let's go down to like 70. And and we can see now they're sort of overlapping with each other. What I'd like you to do is take a couple minutes and draw some rectangles that overlap each other so you can get a feel for how we know which one overlaps which. So we have like 2 there, and then I can draw another one, and let's do this one at 280 and make it a larger one like that. And that's going to draw it right on top. Now, if I move, the order of the lines of code matters here, right? So if I move this rectangle up to the very top of the code and then run it again, now that one is drawn first. So this line of code is drawn first. Oops, this line of code is drawn first, and then this line of code is drawn on top of it, and then this line of code is drawn on top of that. So you can play around with that a bit to get a feel for how these all stack on top of each other. And sometimes you might draw something. Let's take a look at this. Like, all right, here's, let's do the, actually, let me back up here. I want to keep that large rectangle on the bottom. And then this second rectangle, now I have the second rectangle sitting on top of the larger rectangle. If I switch the order of these around and draw the larger rectangle second, so I'm drawing the long skinny rectangle first and then the big square second, what do you think is going to happen now? I'm going to push the play button. And it looks like my first rectangle is gone, but actually it's just hiding underneath the large square. So if you're drawing some shapes and you're like, I don't know where it went, it's gone. It may have to do with the sequence. Is a pretty common mistake, right? It may have to do with the sequence of your calls to these rectangle functions. You may be hiding one underneath the other. Okay, so that's it for now. Here's where we went over. We looked at the XY grid together, and then we talked about some complications when you're drawing many rectangles, the sequencing and the stacking of rectangles on top of each other. I'll see you for part 3 in the next video.